This person sent me an email, and I'm actually going to split the question into two parts. They are related, obviously, but I thought it might be helpful to split it up and see where we go from there. So the first part of the question is, what comes up for me at the moment is I'm seeing that I'm afraid of living life fully. And unless I can control things and guarantee an outcome that I want, then there is this deep fear barrier of what could happen if things don't go the right way. So that's the first thing I wanted to address. And fear is a big one. Fear is a big one that I think everyone meets along the way, and it is the recognition of the non-control of it all. And so really what I would say to this part of the question is, what's most important there is to be able to lean into and soften around this sense of fear that is coming up. Because if you're able to be with that fear that's coming up, then you can recognize that actually I don't need to control what is going to happen. I don't need to have things go the right way. I can allow myself to really move into what is coming up, regardless of the fear. So that's what I would say to that is, we can't control things. And so that existential recognition of I can't control things is going to continually come up. It's a fact of life, actually, that you can't control things. So it's no wonder that it keeps coming up. To actually allow yourself to feel that fear is a closer recognition to how things are. Not the fear, but the lack of control. And in that, when you allow yourself to meet your fear beyond that gateway of fear, you'll find that actually I wasn't ever in control, and I don't need to be in control. And this is where we find trust of life. But fear is a huge one. It's a huge one. That existential, gut-wrenching fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of lack of control. So what I would say is, find the courage is a good word there, to open tenderly to that which is feared. The sensations of fear. The arising energy in the body of that. We are bound by our fear, by our lack of wanting to touch fear. This is the other part of you speaking about afraid to live life fully. You are living life fully. Part of living life fully is fear. There is no part of what you're experiencing that isn't part of life. And the sort of the recognition of that allows us to see that, yes, this too. This is part of living life fully. Touching on that sense of fear. Holding the tender space of it. Breathing into it. On the other side of that fear, this is where we find the freedom to see what happens. We don't know what's going to happen. That's the letting go of going the right way. When we're comfortable with feeling fear, we'll never fully like fear. I'm assuming for most people. I don't want to say everyone, but most people don't ever enjoy feeling fear particularly. But once you're able to hold that fear in a real tender manner, as in it's not rejected, it's not pushed out, then in spite of fear showing up, we get to see what is beyond that fear, what is happening beyond that fear. And so to the second part of the question. I'm also attached to old identities that I'm afraid if I let go of them, I'll just be a nobody in the negative sense of with no value, e.g. needing to be smart, athletic, strong, attractive, likable, etc. All of which will certainly be lost at some stage. Without the positive of those identities, though, there is a deep feeling of unworthiness and worthlessness, which feel like they take over everything, including the body. And there is not really a clear way out, a clear end that feels good. So I just revert back to the toxic identities. And I know they're toxic because when I don't live up to those identities, there is deep suffering. So there's a lot of clarity in what you're writing here, like seeing these things playing out for me is the first opening gambit in all of this. To see, yeah, these are not good, these identities. They're toxic because I can never live up to them. So they're temporary, they're not final. But in relation to the first part of the question, again, this being able to touch on what is so uncomfortable is really vital. And here, what is uncomfortable is this unworthiness, this worthlessness. Because there's a sense of, if I'm not this, that, and the other, I'm nothing. Well, if you can find it within you to find the courage to touch on that unworthiness, what's underneath all of that is the sense of existence. Existence without the need to be anything. If we can get to that space, recognize the felt experience of that. It's not a conceptual place. Far from it. It's the direct knowingness that here I am. Not I as a someone as athletic or strong or attractive. None of these things. No, none of these identities. Here I am. That sense of existence. Nothing need added, nothing need taken away. That's what's underneath all of that. I have a direct message from the person in this email. Why is it so uncomfortable to get there? Because we're so habituated, and everyone is, to not want to feel the yucky stuff we don't want to feel. That's why I say you have to go through it. As I said, you have to go through that fear. You have to go through that sense of unworthiness. And it's not about the conceptual idea of fear or the conceptual idea of unworthiness, but the felt experience of it. It is uncomfortable, and we're avoiding that uncomfortableness. Get back to that nice peace and quiet, where everything's good. there's the holding on to the identities, because they feel temporarily, although it is temporary, because you've seen in your email, it's very temporary because there's deep suffering because I never live up to that. But it feels like safe ground for a moment. That identity, it feels comfortable. It feels known. It feels secure because I know it. So the uncomfortableness is actually where life is guiding you to get comfortable with the uncomfortableness, to find some tenderness for that uncomfortableness that's arising within the system. Always look there. Look where there's some uncomfortableness, some, we think of it conceptually, and that can be the mind going like the clappers and, but actually underneath that is a felt sense. Look for those. Actively look for those. As in, what I mean actively, go beyond just the narration, just the mind thoughts. Sink beneath into the felt experience. This will show you where there's still work, quotes work to be done. Why I say work, as in that's where we're rejecting, that's where there's a sense of separation in life. The idea, and it's not a conceptual idea, it's a whole system idea, not just the thought. It's a felt sense of not this, not this, not this. Separation is born there in that.